And we continue to cover the discovery of human remains found on the construction site of the future Indy 11 stadium. Historic preservationists now say hundreds, possibly thousands of graves are likely still on the 25 acres of land. Emily Longnecker explains the land's history and shares concerns from local historians.
To look at the weeds growing up through the concrete, you'd never know the history buried beneath the ground on an area of land in downtown Indy's southwest quadrant.
We're finding just a long, illustrious list of people who are buried there, black and white.
Eunice Trotter with Indiana Landmark's Black Heritage Preservation Program says the city opened a cemetery on the land in 1821.
So the original cemetery was west of Kentucky and closer to the river for 4 acres.
Trotter says research shows black residents were buried in a separate section just outside of that.
We believe they were buried just outside of that original area, which is closer to the river.
Families who could afford to move graves did so in the 1860s when Crown Hill Cemetery opened.
Many more were left there.
That's why Trotter isn't surprised at last week's discovery of human remains, where developer Keystone Group is building the new home of men's and women's professional soccer.
The developer knew that there would be remains found in this cemetery, because that's what it was. It was a cemetery.
Trotter says it's also likely more remains will be discovered when the city starts building the Henry Street Bridge early next year.
And many of those remains are remains of infants.
By law, when human remains are discovered during construction, work stops in that spot and 100 feet around it, so more careful digging can be done. Because of the scope of both projects and the area they cover,
So we're going to end up starting and stopping this project over and over.
That's why Trotter says the Black Heritage Preservation Program supports a careful excavation of the land first, before any more work is done on either project. Trotter says a national expert and an archaeologist who studied the ground with radar thought that was the right move too.
Our concern is don't use great big backhoes and dig up that ground, and within those pans are the remains of people that we will never see.
People who Trotter says are part of this state and country's history. A history she fears will be lost if we're not careful.
We are all part of the full story of history.
A story Trotter says we can't afford to lose. In Indianapolis, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
And workers with the Department of Natural Resources Historic Preservation and Archaeology Office will also be analyzing the site to determine the next steps.